Hi, I'm Madison, welcome back to my channel. Today I have my August wrap up. So I'm going to talk about all the books that I read in August. I read a pretty good amount. I feel like you guys pretty much know a lot of the books that I did read. I did vlog a lot in the month of August. Really great fun vlogs as I was away in Vegas for most of it with my parents, so that was really fun. So I read 10 books in the month of August. 8 of those were ebooks and 2 of them were physical print books. 8 of them were adult and 2 of them are YA. For the genres, it's a little bit out there. I have 4 romance books, 1 Omegaverse, 1 historical, 1 fantasy, and 2 urban fantasy paranormal books. They were a little bit strange as to like where to put them. I struggle sometimes, you know, with paranormal. And then for my page count for the month of August, I read 3,613 pages. So as per normal, I'm going to be starting with my lowest rated book and working my way up to my highest rated book. Out of the 10 books that I read this month, 2 of them are not rated for 2 different reasons. Well, actually the same reason. They were both manuscripts. So the very first one I read was a manuscript that, my dad's writing a book currently. So I read that this month. And then I also read the manuscript for What Happens After Midnight by Walther, which is an upcoming YA rom-com, really fun. If you like Taylor Swift or Schitt's Creek, there's a lot of like Swiftie and Schitt's Creek references in it, so do keep your eye out for that. But those are my 2 non-rated books. For the books that I did rate, I actually have 3 3-star books. Actually, this is one of my lowest rated months I've had in a hot minute. I don't think I've had this many 3 stars for a while. There were so many books that I was like, yeah, you know, it's okay. It happens. We're not going to cry over it. So for 3-star books this month, the first one we're talking to you guys about is In Trouble by Hannah Haze. This is an Omegaverse. I was super excited for this. I saw the cover. I was like, oh my God, this cover is gorgeous. It sounds like it could be really fun. I started off pretty strong, and then it kind of just ended up being meh. My biggest issue with this was the fact that I just didn't really vibe with the writing style. There were so many exclamation points. And like, I'm not normally someone who reads something and like gets caught up on like the editorial or the writing process of things, because I read a lot of manuscripts. I read a lot of things before they're edited. But there was something about this that I was just like, it didn't work for me. It really didn't work for me. And I guess also I just struggled a lot with some of the relationships that were going on in it as well. It was just a huge miss at the end of the day, and I just didn't like it. What is this about? What is this about? Oh, I remember. It's about this Omega, and she ends up, she's a kleptomaniac, basically, okay? And she steals off this alpha one night while she's banging him, and then he demands to get the thing that she stole back, and she refuses to return it, and he says, like, the authorities involved, and so she does return it, and when she returns it, he's all like, I actually want to hire you to steal something else for me, and then she ends up falling in love with him and his pack. But it's a weird Omegaverse world where, like, there actually aren't a lot of alpha-only packs. It was kind of strange in that sense. Like, it was just a very different Omegaverse world, and it just is one that just didn't work for me at the end of the day. So yeah, another 3-star I read was Filthy Rich Vampires. I was so excited for this because once again, it had a gorgeous cover. I'm getting so annoyed. Why do these books have such pretty covers and then it's not working out for me? I want to own them, but why would I buy a book that I rated 3 stars? It makes no sense. Anyway, this is a vampire romance and I was so excited. This one I thought was really cool because it was an urban paranormal, so it was set during present day for vampires, which is fun. Except for the fact that it was too bloody long. Because it was too long, the pacing really started to lag in the middle, and I just kind of was just like kind of waiting for something to happen. And then the guy in this, he's just like the whole time he's like, I just want to protect you, and his miscommunication was everywhere, bro. He miscommunicated everything, and he's like kind of like was making himself like a martyr by like putting himself in the doghouse all the time and like pushing her away all the time, being like, woe is me. I'm like, woe is not you, bro. You are making yourself woe, bro. Anyway, this follows Julian and Thea. Julian is from the Rosso vampires. They're a very rich and wealthy clan. He put himself in like a vampiric sleep for 30 years because he was like, F humanity, I hate it now. And I mean, fair enough. I wish I could put myself into a 30-year vampiric sleep. Anyway, he gets woken up. He gets told, hey, it's finally the year for the rites. Every 50 years there's this thing called the rites for the vampires, where basically it's like the vampire social season where all the vampires all over the world get together and basically are like, I'm the best and the richest, la 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 la. But also at the same time, some of the oldest vampires end up getting married off to familiars so that they can have pure blood vampire babies to help strengthen their race. So this is Julian, gets woken up so he can do this. He doesn't want to do this. He ends up one night meeting Thea, who is this celloist. He instantly smells her blood and is like hella attracted to her. He tries to compel her at one point because she gets taken by a vampire. Compulsion doesn't work. He's even more attracted to her. She kind of gets attracted to his world. He ends up asking her to be his fake girlfriend so that he doesn't have to go through the rites and find a familiar to marry because he doesn't want to get married. She agrees to be his fake girlfriend and kind of learn about the vampire world. But of course, there are a lot of things keeping them apart because she's a human. I really don't think she is a human. That is not a spoiler. I just highly doubt that she is a human. The second you say compulsion doesn't work on her, I'm like, then she's not human, bro. She's not human, okay? Clue number one. And I liked Thea. She was pretty badass. I liked her a lot because I felt like she was pretty realistic in the true sense of the word. Like, she reacted, I think, how any of us would have reacted to meeting a vampire. At first, you're like, what the actual F? Then you're kind of like, this is actually kind of cool. And then you're kind of like, can I ask you a shit ton of questions that you probably don't want to answer? I liked her. Didn't really like him. Maybe I'll continue on. We don't know. The next 2 out of 5 star I read, I'm very sad about. It is Aphrodite and the Duke by J.J. McAvoy. This is a historical romance. I was super excited for this, but it is a second chance romance that did not work for me. And if you've been watching from my channel for a while, you will know that second chance romances are either extremely hit or they are extremely miss. There is one way or the other. I either give it a 5 star or I give it a 3 star. I don't think I've ever actually given a second chance romance a 4 star because it never falls into that ballpark. It just doesn't happen for me. And this was a 3 star second chance romance. There was just not enough angst and not enough like believable, like lusty romance between them. It was just too easy. So this follows Aphrodite and Evander. Aphrodite is like the diamond. She was the diamond of the season during her season, but she ended up being jilted by her childhood lover when he ended up marrying someone else. And so she retreated to the countryside for many, many years and kind of made herself an outcast. She finally comes back to, you know, do the season again because her younger sister is about to debut and she's like, I'll be there for my sister, but I don't want to do anything. She gets there. The guy that she was in love with many, many years ago who left her, his wife died, okay? So the two of them meet again and he tries to get her to come back to him and try to explain what happened all those years ago and why he jilted her. I think that this could work for a lot of people. I think a lot of people will like this, but because I'm such a picky second chance romance reader, it didn't work for me. So I read 3 4-star reads this month. The very first one is Praise by Sarah Cate. So Praise is book 1 in the Salacious Players Club series by Sarah Cate. It's a 6-book series. Praise is an age gap, Praise kink, ex-boyfriend's dad romance. This follows Charlie and Emerson. Charlie just broke up with her boyfriend and in order to collect the security deposit from the place they had together, she has to go see his dad to collect it. She's never met his dad before, he's never met her, and when she goes to collect the security deposit, he mistakes her for one of his secretaries and commands her to kneel, and basically he thinks she's one of his new subs. And he is one of the owners of the Salacious Players Club, which is a kink club, basically a very high-class billionaire kink club. It's really dope, to be quite honest with you guys. He actually ends up finding out that she's in some financial woes and ends up hiring her as his legit secretary so that she can make money. And she agrees to be his legit secretary, but obviously they have this crazy sexual tension between them. She also starts to learn more about the Salacious Players Club. She kind of gets a bit interested in it. She's never really been someone who's looked into kink or anything like that before, and so it's really about them exploring that, and it's definitely forbidden. It takes them a while to like give into their desires because he's like, I can't, like she's my son's ex-girlfriend and she's like, I can't, this is my ex-boyfriend's dad. She's 21, he's like 40 something I think, so it's a massive age gap between the two of them. I really liked it. I thought they did a really great job at introducing you to kink. I think that if you've never actually read like a kinky romance before, this is actually a really great place to start because you're following Charlie as she's learning about kinks, and so you're kind of learning the terminology, how things work, the safeties of it, the words, and everything that kind of comes with the territory. Highly recommend it for beginners, 100%. I also really appreciate that there was no daddy kink in this. I'm always afraid of a daddy kink when it comes to ex-boyfriend dad tropes, so there was none of that in this. Yeah, it was just a really good book. It wasn't a 5 stars, but it was a super solid 4. The next 4 out of 5 stars I read was Blood and Vows by Kate Easton. This is the pen name for Amanda Richardson, who I love. So this is a Bloody Mary erotica novella. Oh, we love it. Although I kind of hesitate to say erotica novella because they only have sex twice. They only have sex twice in 100 pages. No, but I feel like when I normally read erotica novellas, they're like banging, babe, like from the start, it's like sex. This was not the case here. You're following Elizabeth and Marius. Elizabeth one day stumbles upon this bar, and when she gets to this bar, she goes downstairs to the mirror in the bar, ends up saying this thing in the mirror. Bloody Mary comes out, and Bloody Mary is actually Marius, king of the underworld, devil incarnate himself. And he ends up being like, I've been looking everywhere for you. And she goes, what do you mean you're looking everywhere for me? And then she faints. Turns out that Liz is not who she thought she was. Turns out she's actually been blood betrothed to Marius since she was a baby, because apparently her mum made a pact with him when she was dying as an infant. And so yeah, she kind of gets introduced to this paranormal world that she didn't know about before. Marius is, he is the literal devil, to be quite honest with you. Like, he has horns and red eyes that glow and a whole ass pointy barbed tail that he does use to put in places, if you know what I am saying. But yeah, it was really good, really interesting. He has a human form and that devil form, so you kind of get a little bit of both. You get a little bit of monster sex, a little bit of regular human being sex. And it was really fun. I think my main issue with this was that there was so much more that could have been done. Like, she did all this world building, and then when you finish the novella, it does say that she's going to be writing a full-length novel following these two in the future, and trust me, it is so worth it because I've really only given you the bare bones of what this is because I don't want to spoil anything for you. So worth it, 100% recommend if you're looking for a new short and steamy novella and like maybe potentially a new series to get into. Then we have my last 4-star read, and that is Lightlark by Alex Aster. I'm not going to go too into detail with this because I have an entire vlog focusing on this and kind of giving you guys both my non-spoilery thoughts and my spoilery thoughts on this book. It's a 4 out of 5 stars. If I had to explain this book, I would say it's kind of like, say in the last 10 years, every single YA fantasy that's come out in the last 10 years that's been like everyone's favorite, everyone's classic. If you took all of those and smooshed them together into a book, you get this one. You know, there's a little bit of something for everyone in this book. There were some things that I didn't like love about it, especially for me, the ending. There were some things that I was like, oh, they're just like not my favorite tropes that happen. And also I felt like there was some times in this where it took a little bit to get into everything, but it was really fun. It was really enjoyable. You have a love triangle in this. You got elemental magic. You've got romance, a little bit of romance. Romance isn't that strong in it, to be quite honest with you. I thought the romance would be a bit stronger, but it was a really fun read. And I don't know, there's not really much else for me to say about it, but I think that people will have a fun time reading it and don't just discount it because of everyone being dicks on the internet, basically. Okay, now time for my 4.5 read, and that is Nanny for the Neighbours by Lily Gold. This is a surprise baby reverse harem book set in the UK. So you have got Beth. She is a nanny, however she's been out of work for a year. This takes place a bit after COVID, and so, you know, during COVID no one wanted to hire a nanny, so she's been out of work for a year. And, you know, she's always been crushing on this guy who lives in the apartment above her, and it's been a silent crush for years now. And then one day she's just chilling in her apartment, jobless, and said hot neighbor rocks up to her door and is like, "You're a nanny, right? I've seen your flies. We have a baby. We need your help." And she's like, okay, sure. Goes up to his apartment, sees he lives with 2 extremely hot roommates, and they have an infant, a 6-month-old infant. And it turns out that they are all in polyamorous relationships. The 3 of them always date the same girlfriend. Well, not always, but they tend to more often than not fall in love with the same girl and have a relationship with her. And this happened, and that girl got pregnant, didn't tell them she got pregnant, had the baby, decided she can no longer look after the baby and then left the baby for them, and they don't know what to do. And so she ends up being the nanny for these 3 guys, and then also falling in love with them as well, and kind of having a, you know, why choose romance? I think the reason why this wasn't a solid 5 stars for me is that it was a bit long. There were definitely some parts of this that felt like it dragged a little bit. I felt like this book could have been like a solid 50 to 60 pages shorter, because you kind of are seeing her relationship with each of the guys, and as each of them progresses, and they are all at different lengths. And so I do think that there was a lot in this book development wise, and it definitely focuses more on them as people than, you know, just smut. It's not really that I mean, there are some really great sex scenes in this. I mean, you've got upside down Spider-Man kiss on the hoo-ha, but otherwise, yeah, really great. I had a lot of fun with it. It's definitely something that I would recommend. I definitely want to read more from Lily Gold. She's got a lot of different why choose romances that I'm really excited to read, and the British humor in this was priceless. I loved the guys, especially Jack and Cyrus. They were my favorites, especially Cyrus. He was the male stripper and he was great. He was so much fun. Oh, I loved him to death. And I do think that, like, even this book at the end, it got me super emotional. Like, I almost cried. Like, there were like tears welling up in the bottom. It was really, it was a hard one. So I do want to say that if you have any trigger warnings for being like a foster child and being like an orphan as well, like, do know that that is a trigger in this, because Beth does have like massive abandonment issues. Also, if you have any triggers for infertility, because that's also a trigger in this, and I don't consider infertility to be a spoiler, because there are some people who find that to be a super big issue. So yes. Now, into my 5-star read, Lizzie Blake's Best Mistake by Mazey Eddings. I feel like this exact time last year I was telling you guys that A Brush with Love by Mazey Eddings was a new 5-star romance to me, because she is 100% a spicy rom-com author. If you love Tessa Bailey as like spicy rom-coms, you have to check out Mazey Eddings, because she is right up there at the exact same time. And this book even has an Aussie hero as the love interest, and I didn't hate him. So in this, you're following Lizzie. Lizzie has adult ADHD. She's bumping around from job to job. She's not really sure what she wants to do in life. She loves baking, but, you know, her family is super toxic and kind of wants her to kind of settle down. And one day she ends up meeting this really hot Australian dude at the bar, bangs him again. He then goes back to Australia. She's like, great, 2-night stand, whatever, except for the fact that she ends up pregnant, because she's like, oh my God, I didn't know that condoms expire. Which, you know, everyone, if you did not know that, condoms do expire. Like, people do not tell people this enough. So she gets pregnant. She's like, what am I doing with my life? Because then she just loses her job too. And then she doesn't know what to do. She calls the guy up and is like, I'm pregnant. Don't worry about it. I'm keeping the baby, but you don't have to do anything. Have fun in Australia. Goodbye. And he's like, oh no, I'm just going to get my job transferred to America. We'll figure this out and co-parent. And then she ends up moving in with him. When he moves to America, the two of them try and figure out co-parenting platonically, platonic co-parents, which obviously they were attracted to one another because they banged in the first place. And so it's really fun, super hilarious. I had a blast and a half reading this. Highly recommend it, especially if you want to see the neurodivergent rep in it with Lizzie's adult ADHD. There's a lot of talk about that in this, and I feel like a lot of people will feel very seen. It had some really great steamy scenes. I mean, obviously they have their 2-night stand right off the bat and is hot, hot, hot. And also, if you didn't know, there is erotic baking. Now, if you're wondering what erotic baking is, it's making baked goods look like genitalia and things like that. It is really great. If you've never heard of boob macaroons, read this book. I didn't know about boob macaroons, had never occurred to me before, and I'm now obsessed with them. So you can be obsessed too. And that is it. That is my August wrap up. I hope you guys did enjoy it. If you did, please like button down below. If you want to see more of me, please go to my channel. And until next time, thanks a bunch everyone. Bye bye.